All right, so we're just going to give it 30 seconds or so until we see it pop up on the live stream. Not seeing anything yet here. All right, looks like we are live. So hi everyone, it's Matt here from Greatness Everyday, and I'd like to welcome you to another video. Very excited to have an interview today, the third interview on the Greatness Everyday channel. I'm here talking with Andrea Janzen, who is a professional leadership coach, a women's coach, and also a Lolë brand ambassador. And we're excited to hear from her today. So Andrea, thank you very much for joining us.
Matt, thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be on your YouTube channel.
Great. I appreciate that. And we're super excited to have you. Basically, for anybody listening or watching us here on YouTube, what's going to happen is this live stream will go supposedly as follows. We'll do some introductions, then we'll go ahead and I will get into some questions and ask those to Andrea. And that conversation will just kind of go as it goes. There's no certain script. And as we go through the interview, please be sure to let us know any questions that you have down in the comments below. And we'd be really excited to either I can ask those as we go, or we can ask those at the very end. So if you are watching, just chime in the chat on YouTube. It'd be great to see who's watching and from where. So let's get started with the first question. There's kind of two in one here. Andrea, let's just get you to introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Andrea Janzen, and I am a leadership and executive coach. And what I do is I help companies get more women into leadership, because everybody's talking about the gender gap, the idea that women make less money than men, and there's also less women in leadership roles at high levels and mid levels than there are men. So I decided to do something about it, and I help companies by working with individual women in a group or one-on-one to really help them see their potential and figure out what drives their ambition so that they feel confident and ready to put their hand up when leadership opportunities are there. So it's really about filling that pipeline. So when positions open up, when there's opportunities there, women are ready and confident to take those on.
Great. Well, that's a great introduction. And it's something that I'm really excited about learning about today, adding to the little bit of knowledge that I do have about leadership, and especially, like you said, the gender gap and women's leadership in particular as well, and kind of adding to that. So thanks for being here. Let's talk about your coaching journey. Has this always been something that maybe you finished school and you knew that you wanted to become a leadership coach in a variety of capacities? Or is this something that you've kind of developed as opportunities have sort of come to you?
So that is a really, really great question. And it's one of those things that leadership coaching, I didn't actually even know it was a career when I finished university. I actually worked for about 15 years in the marketing world, so climbing the corporate ladder for about 15 years. And then, like you said, I just kind of discovered coaching. So during my first maternity leave, people wanted me to help them with their job search. So it started out as people just asking for help on their resume and help with a job interview. And people kept coming over. I'm like, hold my baby and I'll help you with your resume. Let's practice some questions. And then word spread, and someone was coming over almost every week to hold my baby, and I would help them get ready for their job interview. And eventually it turned into a side hustle. So I was doing resumes for people. I went back to work, but there was this kind of burning desire inside to do something more. And I'd always had this kind of idea of doing something on my own. So I explored that a little bit more. I wanted to get more training, and I took a coaching program at Royal Road University. And that's where I discovered that coaching is so much more than just getting a job. It's really about figuring out what's important to you and making that your career and finding ways in your organization to do things that are fulfilling to you, so that you want to strive for more, so that you're feeling excited and that you can be a leader and you can share your gifts and talents in your organization and inspire other people to do the same. So that's kind of how I landed in coaching.
All right. So you started maybe in a traditional business world job. Is that's the case you said?
Yeah. So yeah, I had like I worked at a lot of different companies. So I worked at Canadian Tire for a bit. I was even a brand manager on Absolute Vodka.
Okay.
I worked in the not-for-profit world, so I'm kind of like the typical millennial, even though I'm like 1 or 2 years older than than the millennial official demographic. But I am that typical person that stayed in a job for a couple years, was looking for that next step, and like if it wasn't happening in that organization, I went and I found it elsewhere because I always wanted to learn, always wanted to grow, always was looking for that next step.
Great. And I'm sure that experience and the variety of experiences that you've had really kind of allow you to diversify kind of your coaching practice, I guess, with the many years of experience you have in different situations. So I'm sure that plays a big role into that. I'm asking you now, what is your why? Like, why do coaching or consulting instead of another career?
That is a really good question. And it's kind of twofold. So I want to answer it both ways. So, one thing that always has frustrated me is seeing kind of untapped potential. So, seeing someone that's capable of something and they just, for whatever reason, they're not doing it. They're not kind of bringing their best self forward. They have some skill. They're just like maybe a little bit unsure of themselves. So, it kind of stays a little bit hidden. So that's was really frustrating for me. And so my ability, I felt like I could always just see potential in people. Just for as long as I could remember, I just would always just believe in people that they had the capability and the capacity to just step up and really take on something new, take on a new challenge. You know, even just when I was started, like get that job, really. Like that's kind of how it started. And finding that that's a career, like leadership coaching is a thing that basically your job is to help people leverage their potential to move forward and drive results for the organization. So at the end of the day, you're helping people do something that's exciting for them and contributing to the bottom line because people are engaged at work, people are feeling fulfilled. So they're actually giving more to the organization and it's really a win-win. So that's kind of my why, is that frustration first with untapped potential and this ability to tap into it to create something and create value for people, for organizations. So that
Yeah, great. That's a great answer. I think that like the challenge that you put out to people, seeing that untapped potential, and whether it goes in just our day-to-day life with our friends, or whether it's more of a professional setting, maybe with a leadership coach or a consultant, then I think that the ability for somebody to step up and recognize that potential in someone can have huge consequences of the good kind, for sure. So if I was a client looking to hire you basically for one of your programs, and we've got a really exciting program of yours that just came out that I want to not touch about yet. I want to talk about that just after this question, and I'm really excited for people to hear about that. What would a regular program, if I can say, what would that look like? Would it be through face-to-face meetings or through online like we're doing now, or some other type of lesson? What would a regular program kind of involve for your clients?
Okay, so that is a really great question because I work with people in different ways. So one way is I work directly with companies. So if I'm working with a company, normally we do some type of big program, like a big workshop on a topic. So like conflict, like building a better team, how to communicate, whatever is really going on at the company, what the leaders think, like what can we get better at, is really the approach that I take, and really figure out like where could this company grow, and figuring out a topic that way. So that's one way I work with companies. The second one is small group coaching. So taking a leadership team and working with them and figuring out like, what do you need to do to get yourselves to the next level? And it's kind of like a smaller group coaching is usually, I call it on-demand leadership training. So it's instead of me trying to figure out like, these are the steps that you need, these are the things you need to know, it's really letting them be their own guide. So listening to them and figuring out like, what are the things that are keeping them up at night? Like, what are the things that are out there that are opportunity that they want to leverage, and working with them like kind of in the moment and being like, what can you learn about this? What do you need to do? And let's take action and measure it. So working with small groups to really help them figure out like where they want to go, how to support each other and move forward. So that's the second way. And then the third way is one-on-one, is just one-on-one with people. And it's like, again, it's leadership training on demand for that one person. So whether you are a new leader and you're trying to figure out like, what does this mean now that I'm the boss? Like, what does that mean for me? Like, what do I need to learn? Like, what do I need to stop doing? Like, that's a big thing that new leaders face, is that they still want to keep doing the job, but that's not always possible because you have a whole team to lead. So figuring that out on a one-on-one basis is another way. And the last one, which I know we're going to talk about later, is my new group program, and that one is all online. So I'll save that one for later.
Well, yeah, well, let's jump into that now, because if you go on to Andrea's website, and I'd really encourage you to do that later on. If you go onto her website, you'll find some programs like career coaching and business coaching. There's an interesting one that I saw talking about conflict and conflict at work. But you started a new program in the last few weeks. It's something that I think that our audience, looking at my demographics for our Instagram page, for example, I think it's something like close to 67 to 70% women. And a lot of the people that are following me and the Greatness Everyday page are really interested in things like leadership and business, entrepreneurship. So I know our audience would really like to know more about your women's coaching program. So please tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so this is the second part of my why that I didn't answer before. So I'll start there. So last summer, so summer 2017, I got a magazine in the mail, and it was one of those promotional subscriptions where you're not a subscriber, but they just send you a free issue hoping that you'll subscribe. And it was Chatelaine magazine, which is a women's lifestyle magazine. And in it, there was an article about women's ambition, and I read it, and I was really shocked because it said that 83% of women were not really or somewhat ambitious. And then the kicker was that 2/3 of these women that they surveyed, and they surveyed 1,000 women in Canada, said that they would not take their boss's job, even if it was offered to them.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's shocking, right?
And to be honest, it's a totally different reality for me, obviously. But that stat is very shocking, for sure. Through your experience, I guess, at the end of these programs, and I know that it's pretty new, but at the same time, you've been doing this work for quite some time now, just as an official program. What are some of the skills that these women or whoever takes one of your courses will be able to kind of graduate or finish your program with?
So that's a really great question. And so it's the idea that everybody has a choice. So I want every woman or every person that takes my course, is when you learn something. So when you learn that there's a problem with getting women into leadership in the corporate world, I want everybody to realize that they have a decision to make. And that decision is to wait for somebody else to figure it out. And that's an option, because this is a complicated problem. Like, the government needs to be involved, policymakers, education system, our culture. Like, it's a huge issue. It's not just like, take my program and we're going to have equality tomorrow. It's not that simple. But I want people to be able to make the decision to wait, or to step up and say, you know what, I'm going to be a leader in my own life. And yeah, this is a complicated problem, but I'm going to be part of the solution. So what my hope is for people that take my programs, and what they leave with, is that ability to be part of that solution. And what that means, it means just stepping up and recognizing that you have potential. And I'm going to help you see that. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And I'm going to point my finger at you and show you that potential, and help you figure out like what you need to do to really tap into that and take your career to the next level. Because the best way to open doors for other women and to change those numbers is to just step up and put yourself out there yourself. Follow your own ambition. Do the things that inspire you. And when you do that, other people are going to be inspired to do the same thing.
Right, for sure. Leading by example and really stepping out and putting yourself out there, and really learning from those situations, and that's big. And I think that I'm a high school teacher for those people that don't know. That's what I do in the day, and then at nighttime I just do these weird interviews with some really cool people. But I think that high school students in particular struggle with leadership, struggle with taking initiative sometimes, not all the time. But I think that the demographic of high school girls, high school women, that would be a really neat opportunity for somebody like yourself doing this to really make connections with them at a young age, rather than maybe they go through all these this stage of can I do this, or having questions, and then eventually maybe by their mid-20s or into their 30s or 40s, they come and approach you with something like this. It'd be really neat. And I've got a few ideas in my head right now. I just
want to interrupt for a sec, because my dream is that, like, the culture in our world changes so that people like me don't need to exist. Like, I don't need to have a special women's leadership coaching program.
Absolutely.
There's just a leadership development program, and we're all doing it together, and we don't need to talk about this. And the fact that you're noticing this with your high school students, like, that doesn't make me happy, but that just adds fuel to my fire. And it makes me realize that, you know what, this is so important. Like, it's so important for us to have these conversations and figure it out, because the one thing that does happen, and one thing I do know about the corporate world, is that there are a lot of barriers that are there for women that make it harder. Like, there's not a lot of role models. Like, if you look at the numbers, there's a very low percentage of women in the C-suite. So it's about 5% of the companies on the TSX 500. Like, that's it. Those are the senior leaders that women have. And even at middle management level, there's less women than there are men. So it's like there's not enough role models. And it's also, there's these cultural barriers that we have, that just the way that our culture is, it makes it a little bit harder for women. So in the coaching, we address those barriers, and then we figure out, like, how can we get around them? And it's the idea that our generation is going to have strategies to get around these barriers. But these girls that are your students today, by the time they're working, like, they're not going to have these barriers, and they're just going to have to, go for their dreams, work on their leadership skills a little bit, and things are going to happen for them. So that is kind of my hope, and that's why I do this.
Right, that's really neat, minimizing the gender gap there. And regardless of who it is, if it's a young guy, if it's a young girl, whatever, taking away those barriers, which is neat. That's great. I'm going to jump into now. We mentioned this at the very beginning, talking about you are a Lolë brand ambassador. That is something that I am jumping into a little bit now, but I'd love if you would be able to kind of share a little bit about what Lolë is and kind of what the logo and what the name stands for.
Yeah, okay. So this is, just so everyone knows, this is how I met Matt. He's a Lolë ambassador, and I'm super excited that he's on board. Lolë just launched a men's line, so Matt is kind of a trailblazer.
Oh, that's dangerous. That's scary, but it's been good, very good so far. But I'm looking to get more involved now as a few things have kind of come up. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and the one thing I love about you, Matt, is that, like, so the brand it's LOLE, and it stands for Live Out Loud Every Day. And
Perfect timing. Just showing the hustle. Showing the hustle. No, you're good.
Yeah. Where did you go? I don't see you anymore. Oh, there you are. Sorry about that.
Right. No problem. That just shows the realities that you face as a mother and as a business person and everything else. So that's great.
I'm just going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb for a second. Okay.
Sure, sorry, no problem.
Now we're back. So
live out loud every day. I like it.
Yeah, like live out loud every day. And I guess what MAD stands for is Greatness Every Day is so similar to Live Out Loud Every Day, and really is like how MAD interprets as Live Out Loud Every Day is like helping people find greatness every day And for me, it's about helping people be more ambitious and helping people like strive for more in their lives and in their careers. It is literally like replace reignite your ambition with live out loud every day, and it literally means the same thing. So that's what really attracted me to the brand. And a friend of mine who goes to my church and also babysits my kids, she was working at Lolë and she was babysitting my kids first. And when she started working there, I noticed these positive changes in her. So she just seemed more happy. She just seemed like she was doing more things, and her life just seemed to be a little bit better since she started working there. And she told me about the ambassadors, and I was really curious about it. And then I became one, and it's been awesome. So what we do as ambassadors is we bring people to the store so that they can have better, like help them to live out loud every day. So we do it through fitness classes, there's yoga, there's coaching workshops, we have a nutritionist that's an ambassador. So it's really things that are going to make your life better, and it's totally free. So
and maybe that's the best part, for sure. For me, with Greatness Every Day, the motto of it is helping real people live great lives, and it ties into kind of what Lolë is all about, living out loud every day. So that's why I jumped at the opportunity. And our motto, I just got these sweet new business cards. I don't think it might be flipped on there. It says choose greatness every day. And they came in the mail today, which I was excited about. And I mean, it's just such a thing. Like you said, you've noticed those changes in your friend when she started working around the store. People that are getting into wellness and really making wellness a priority. We all have wellness, whether we choose to prioritize it or not. You recognize those changes, whether those are mindset. That's a mindset, which is a big one that I've been focusing on this year. It's kind of really protecting my mindset and making sure that it's strong in the right way. And things like nutrition, you said, and fitness is a big one. Obviously, being Lolë as a brand, they have apparel, they have clothing, activewear specifically, and they have a new men's line. But clothing's great. It fits me, which a lot of clothes don't fit me, just given my height and my build and stuff like that. They're super comfortable, and they have a lot more to offer for women, for sure. But what are some of the events that you do have out of the store? I know that maybe the ones that you are specifically involved in.
Yeah, so one is coaching workshops. So if you're interested in kind of being a little bit more ambitious, striving for more in your career, I do workshops at the store in Halifax. So that's one thing. And it's really like you get to experience working with a professional coach for free. So that's what I do. And kind of in January, I'm going to be doing some about goal setting. I've done some goal setting workshops to really unpack, like, what is it going to take for you to actually reach this goal? Because it's one thing to kind of put that goal out there, to kind of say it out loud, but really, like, I help people like really dig a little bit below the surface to figure out what is it going to take to make this happen, and helping people do that through a workshop. So that's one thing that I do. And the second one is running. So we have a run club. We meet every Saturday morning, and we train for races together. And it's been a really beautiful experience for me. And I have to say, I sometimes think I get more out of it than the other women in the run group do as well, because it's that sense of community. It's the sense of having somebody there on Saturday morning that is counting on me to be there and run with them. And it's that idea of when we go to a race and some people have never done a race before. So being a part of that journey for them is really exciting. It's really rewarding. And the other cool thing that happens is there's a spillover. So, and this is my favorite part. And I know you're smiling that because you get it. It's
absolutely.
Like, you set a goal in one area of your life, like, hey, I'm just going to join this run club. I'm just going to show up on Saturdays and commit to just doing that, like as simple as that. It's the idea that accomplishment, it stays with you and it shines on the rest of your life. So you become happier and you become more likely to achieve your goal in another area of your life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of just sport in general. I grew up playing every sport that I could, just because of the lessons that it teaches, the lessons of hard work, the lessons of showing up, even when you don't want to, even when the weather's not good, even when your body is sore. You show up, you put the work in, and you're rewarded for that in the end. So many lessons, the mindset lessons, which is again, something I've really focused on this year. So sport, running in particular, I love that. I'd love to see maybe a men's group start up out of the Halifax store, which would be neat. To just be really cool to see kind of the community coming together through something like running. It's way more than running, as you said, which is neat. And I think you've got a race coming up in a couple weeks, or you're training towards a race,
Yeah,
maybe?
so we're doing a 5K on the 28th of October in Shuby Park. So yeah, if you want to come, message me or Matt, and we will send you the details, and you can sign up for the race and see us there.
Yeah, I think that I am sneaking down for it and making a quick appearance. It'll be neat to kind of make a few more connections here through everything that's going on. I think as well, I'm coming down, I believe, in November to do my first seminar, which will be interesting. I'm really focusing that on morning routines. So that's going to be something kind of like how to hack and prepare for the greatest day of your life each and every day through something like a morning routine. So that's something that I'm excited to do. And we've talked about events. We've talked about what you do with Lolë. There are stores, places that people can mainly in Canada, but they have expanded to other countries as well. So go check that out by doing a quick Google search, or the link to all that stuff will be down below. And a few more questions here. What advice would you give to somebody that is thinking about getting into the coaching or consulting field?
Oh, that is a good question. Okay, so the first thing that they should do is get their own coach, so they can figure out what it really is. So that's something that I didn't actually do. I just signed up for a coaching program. And so the first time I got real coaching was when I was a coaching student. So it was really interesting because I kind of just went in, jumped in off the deep end. But I would recommend, if anybody's thinking about going into coaching, is to work with a coach so that you know what it's like and you know the power of that transformation that can happen, so that you can live it, breathe it yourself before you kind of go out there and offer it to other people and find out if it's really for you.
Okay, neat. That makes sense. Really kind of go in there with a little bit more knowledge of what you're eventually going to be doing. Experience it, and I think once you experience it and you experience the power of those transformations that it really can cause, if you have a good coach, that would really ignite the fire in you to keep doing it and to build that passion for sure. Cool. Where do you want to be in 5 years, 20 years? Do you have any like goals over the next few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it's not, I don't have a goal that's set in stone, but it's really about kind of taking this thing that I feel like the women's leadership coaching initiative, I'm just scratching the surface with it. And for me, the things that excite me are adventure, achievement, connecting with people, and like untapping potential. So those are the things that inspire me. So if I'm doing that in 5 years, I will be happy. But I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of this women's leadership coaching. So helping women to really step up and get to that next level in their careers. But I also see that maybe that's not enough. And I've learned the more and more I work with companies, the more I look at the research, the more that I connect with people that are doing this kind of work, I realize we need to do more. So I think of expansion. So I think of like, what could I do if I brought more people on board? Like, what other skills do I not have that I need to bring on board with me? So kind of what I'm doing right now, I'm meeting with people that have similar experience to me, but maybe a little bit different, or that believe in the same things that I do, and thinking like, how can I work with these people and how can we like kind of push each other ahead so that we can have an even bigger impact? Because I want to accelerate change. Like I want like the girls in your high school class, like I want them to, when they start their careers, to be equal, for them to see like, you know what, I can do anything I want. I can take my career to any level that I want to do, and there's not going to be barriers in my way. And that's what I want. And it's going to be a lot of work, but that's kind of what my goal is, to just keep going at this, keep picking away at it, and making a big change.
Awesome. And then, and like you said, I want the exact same thing for those students too. I have a few things right now I'll talk to you afterwards about that. I already see a couple of opportunities there. I'm going to take this moment right now to let people watching know any questions that you have for Andrea as we go through these next few questions. Go down and let us know in the comments below, and I'll finish with those here in a few minutes. I see a few coming in there, which is great to see. I'll ask you those very shortly. Some of my favorite questions here. I've got two really good questions.
Good.
What makes a great day for you? So at the end of the day, what makes a great day?
Okay, so number one, I know this is going to sound cheesy, like you probably told me to say this, but you didn't. So maybe you're watching, Matt did not tell me to say this, but exercise. So if I have exercised in a day, that makes a great day. And the other thing that I love is exercising in a new way or in a new place. So if I'm ever traveling, going for a run, making sure I have my phone so I can GPS my way back to where I started, but like exploring a new place that way, or just exploring my own neighborhood in a different way, that makes it a great day. It makes it a great day when I connect with people. So when I get to meet people, when I get to talk to people, when I get to have cool conversations, that makes a great day for me. And coffee as well.
Great. And I mean, I didn't tell you to say exercise, but if I was to tell you to say anything, I probably would have told you to say exercise, because that's something that I live by myself. So I definitely agree with that. And meeting people, we live in a great place in terms of our part of the world, the Maritimes, the eastern coast of Canada for that, where everybody seems to be super friendly, sometimes overly friendly, which is great. But the cool thing about that is we connected, never in person yet, until the run in a few weeks, maybe, but we've connected digitally, so that world has really kind of expanded. And for me, the power of social media being a positive factor in our lives rather than a negative factor is really cool. And on Instagram and YouTube, I've connected with so many really neat, positive influences in my life, which has been cool to see. So that's a great day. Let's think larger. What is a great life? What's your definition of a great life?
So it goes back to those words. So those things are like so important to me. So like adventure. So being able to try new things. And for me, before I have 3 kids, so me and Matt are at a different stage in our lives. So
very different. I don't have 3 kids. I don't have any kids.
So from when I was younger, before I had kids, like for me, adventure was about travel. And like one of the things that I did, I spent 6 months traveling in India and Indonesia for a while. And every job that I had before, there was always travel. So I got to travel all across Canada because I was a national marketing manager. I also worked at global companies. So I got to travel to Mexico. I got to travel to Paris. So I got to have these really cool experiences, get out of my comfort zone, learn a new culture. Like pretty often, like usually a few times a year, I would travel to a different country. So that would really be that adventure, that sense of adventure, that sense of exploring. And when you're there, you're connecting and you're exploring, you're learning. For me, that was a great year. But since I've had 3 kids, it's not as easy to do that. And it's expensive, but even when you do suck it up and spend the money, it's not always that relaxing. And it's not like you're just free to experience it and connect with people all the time, when it's just a little bit harder. So the way that I've kind of had to shift my thinking a little bit, like we still travel when we can, but it's more like a road trip. So it's camping and it's figuring out, the adventure is, how are we going to cook like food on a campfire and a little camping stove for 7 days? How are we going to have a family of 5 like sleep in one tent? I'll bring my stand-up, I'll strap my stand-up paddleboard to the top of our car with bikes on the back. It looks kind of crazy. It's like bringing all the gear. It's like taking like 20 minutes and grabbing my stand-up paddleboard and exploring a river, because I need that. I realize that about myself. If I'm not getting that sense of adventure in my life, then I'm not happy. So I've had to find new ways to bring that into my life, because it's not as easy as it used to be. And it looks different, but that for me is a great year when there's adventures, when there's connecting with people, and even achievement is important to me. That's another one that's really important to me. So whether that's like growing my business, so that's making progress on my business, that's important to me. That would be a great year, but also achieving in other areas of my life. So I signed up to do a marathon in January. So that is going to be a big goal. So achieving something like that is exciting for me. And as part of the Lolë Run Club, I signed up for 3 5K races. And I never ran 5K races before. I'd always focused on like the half marathon or a 10K. And I've really loved it. So the idea for me of achievement is I'm going to run this 5K as fast as I can. And that achievement has been really fulfilling for me. So achievement, adventure, as long as I'm doing that, it's a great year.
Cool. Great. That's awesome. You talked about like exercising. If you're not exercising, or maybe more so the sense of adventure, you're not happy. I definitely echo what you said there. One more question here is that marathon that you signed up for, is that a Canadian marathon in January?
No, no, it's not.
Okay. I mean, all the power to you, but for people that know where we live, that would be, let's just say, cold.
It would be, yes, it would be cold. But yeah, no, it's actually in Miami. So that's the thing. It was like the sense of adventure. We get to travel to a new place. I get that achievement. So that is like an epic thing that I get to kick the year off with in January to set myself up for an awesome 2019.
Great. That's awesome. A very good way to start for sure. Just looking at the chat here, we have people watching from New Brunswick. We have people watching from St. Kitts, so down in the Caribbean. Thank you, Christina, for watching. Good friend of mine. And we've got Rachel that commented down. And this is a question that I actually had on my list. I just didn't get a chance to ask. So I'm glad you brought this up. Is what can men in particular do to encourage and provide opportunities for women in the workplace? So maybe what can men do to be an ally?
Oh, that is a great question. So one is they can just literally like ask the women that they work with, like how they're doing, and ask like, how can I support you? And get really curious, like ask them like what their goals are, and ask them like, how can I support you? And I think that would be the best first step. The other thing is there's a lot of women's events. There's a lot of women's networking events. There's a lot of talk that happens about the gender gap amongst women. So for those men who are looking to do something courageous and bold, go to those events. Ask the women that you work with to bring you, and really just showing up and just being there. I think that is a really great start, because really, if we're going to have change, like both genders need to be on board, and the benefits are for both men and women. So yeah, it's really just simple. Just ask questions to the women that you work with and put yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure. And I like how you summed it up. It doesn't have to be some big philosophical thing. It sometimes is as simple as showing up and being present, right? Mm-hmm. Asking, supportive, encouraging. So that's a great question to finish on. I don't see any more questions here. So I just want to say, let's give a couple minutes here for you to just say, where can people listening and people watching find and connect with you? Are you on Instagram, Facebook? You have a website? Tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Andrea Janzen. So it's AndreaJanzen. I'm on Facebook, Andrea Janzen Coaching, and you can go to my website. It's andreajanzen.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I am Andrea Janzen. So Yeah, just
Great. They should be able to find you then.
yeah.
That's great. And I will go ahead and link all of that stuff in the video description below. So those of you that are watching it right now can go connect with her there and connect with Andrea as well if you're watching this on the live replay. So a couple of things here. Really want to thank Andrea for being here. I want to thank everybody for jumping in and chiming in just to watch, or chiming into the chat or the comments after when you're watching this on the replay. It looks like we had quite a few people jump in and out here, so that's great to see. And everything will be linked below, and I'd really encourage you to go check out Andrea's stuff related to entrepreneurship, related to leadership, related to women's coaching, and so many other things. So Andrea, thank you very much for being here, and I hope that people watching took something away. I know that I definitely did, and we'll have to be talking soon.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much for having me, Matt.
Great.
I'm excited to run with you at the end of the month.
That'll be good. I'm really looking forward to that. My kind of fitness journey has been an interesting one over the last 2 years, let's say. Kind of went from the best, highest point in my life to really kind of like, whoa, I can barely put one foot in front of the other, just in terms of injuries and stuff like that. But that has a big effect on kind of your mentality and things like that. So I'm interested to share more about that with you and kind of look at how we can move further here with what we're doing with Lolë.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Great. Awesome. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. And I don't see any more questions here, so I'm going to stop the broadcast and have a good night. Bye, Andrea.
Bye.